Brother Jones, let me just preface this by thanking you for the work you do across the spectrum.
Thank you.
Yeah, you can clap for that. Being on the front lines,
Yeah, thank you.
really appreciate it. Now, you spoke about, mass incarceration, stigmas, and there is this pervasive link between race and criminality, right? One would argue. My question, though, is kind of on a different side of the spectrum. There is a scarce number of minorities when you talk about big tech, banking, finance industries, right? Mm-hmm. Specifically black and brown people. My question to you is, how would you argue the business case for hiring more black and brown people? And what would a practical matter of that hiring process look like?
It's great. I'm glad that you asked. Prince, when he was alive, did a lot of charitable work that he never talked about publicly because he was Jehovah's Witness, so he didn't want that out there. But I got a chance to work with Prince on something called Yes We Code, and we were it's growing now. It's going to wind up being one of the biggest scholarship programs to get young adults of color into tech and into those training programs, et cetera. What we were guessing about 6, 7, 8 years ago, and now we know, is that the more diverse companies are the ones that are starting to be the most profitable companies. So you don't never have to talk about charity or guilt trip or whatever. We just say, do you want to make money? Turns out, if you put people from the same group around the table to solve a problem, they come up with worse answers than if you put people who have very different perspectives around that same problem. Just give you an example on gender, just to make it easy for everybody. There's a company in Silicon Valley, I won't name the company, but they were trying to figure out this idea around wearables. In other words, computers are going to be so small that you're going to be able to wear them as earrings, as buttons, and stuff like that, which is interesting. The problem is, how do you charge them? How do you recharge a button? Where do you plug it in? If it's this small, how do you recharge it? And they put their best quote-unquote engineers on it, all men, best, all men, and they're working on this, and they could not solve the problem. A female engineer who had not even been picked for the project walked past, heard them talking about it, stood in the corner, and listened for a while, and she's laughing to herself like, this is ridiculous. These guys just killing themselves trying to answer this question. And she finally says, look, I don't mean to be rude. They jumped, they didn't even know she was there. I don't mean to be rude. But can I ask you a simple question? Yeah. Do any of you wear jewelry? They all said no. She said, well, let me tell you something. Those of us who do, when we get home, we take off our jewelry and we put it in a bowl, have the bowl be the recharger. $1 billion idea, okay? Because when you put people who come from so race can be a proxy. Gender can be a proxy for cognitive diversity. I have lived the world differently, therefore I think slightly differently, I see from a slightly different angle, and by you putting me on your team, you're going to increase the cognitive diversity, i.e. your problem-solving ability, i.e. your profit line. And that's starting to prove itself. So we don't have to beg, we can point to the bottom line. And I'd love to talk with you afterwards. We should be doing the same thing, to your point, with Wall Street, Hollywood, all of these big industries that are still too, for lack of a better term, pale and male at the top, could actually make more money. Look at Black Panther. All the superhero movies that they did, they put the Black Panther out, and that thing became the biggest thing in the world. And that could be done over and over again. So I appreciate your question.
Absolutely.